Good morning, everyone. We are here for episode 7 of the Break-Thru Active podcast, and this is episode 5 of our series at the beginning. I'm here with Jamie here this morning, and we're joining you via Zoom for the first time today. So we're going to give it a try to see how this plays out. So how are you this morning, Jamie?
Good, mate. Thank you all for listening. It is May 11. Last week we spoke about restrictions potentially being lifted, and that's the case. So as of this Friday, May 15, we are allowed to run sessions of 10 people outdoors, which is a huge, huge step forward. And more exciting than that is stage 2. That's when gyms reopen and gatherings of up to 20. So we're definitely heading in the right direction.
Yeah, with ScoMo's announcement, I think it was last Friday, he unveiled a 3-stage plan. And like Jamie mentioned, stage 1, we can have gatherings of 10 people outdoors, which includes outdoor boot camp. And then stage 2 is going to be gyms reopening with restrictions of up to 20 people, I believe. And then stage 3 is going to be gatherings of 100 people. So all appears to be moving in the right direction, which is very exciting for us, but I'm sure very exciting for everyone as well.
Yeah, and we've said it several times, but at stage 3, gathering of 100, we're going to have one hell of a party to celebrate with you all and to thank you all for sticking with us through this period. But I am very confident that we are almost through it.
So today we are going to talk about the final stage of our journey that we've had the last 5 years or so, and that's going to cover the latter half of 2019 and then up until this point now, which is obviously May 2020.
Yeah, and everything we learnt from July 27, 2015 was leading up to this point. So Edgeworth's open, Warners Bay's open, Wallsend open. Curry is just doing its own thing as it's always done. And at this point, both Mitch and I, we agreed that we needed to start helping you guys with progression more in your training, which entailed getting more and more equipment to continue to challenge you, to ensure that you keep getting results and stay motivated and stay accountable.
Well, at this point, like we said, about midway through 2019, we looked at the Wallsend boot camp and even our Curry boot camp, which had been there for years, but even boot camp at Wallsend had been there for about 18 months, and Edgeworth was approaching sort of that 12-month mark, and Warners Bay was still a bit earlier on. But up until this point, we still were very, I guess you could say, limited with the equipment we had. And that was partly due to the space restrictions that we had in the locations that we were using, but also just out of choice. We felt as though the equipment and the gear we had was sufficient for what we needed. And this wasn't just one conversation. This was the course of a few months of discussion and conversation, and sort of coming up with a bit of a new strategy where we really felt as though that the members needed some extra equipment, needed some heavier weights, needed some extra cardio equipment, just to really be able to diversify training. And also, like Jamie mentioned, to be able to continue to see progress and continue to see results for those who had been with us for a little while.
So at this point, we found a building on Torrens Avenue in Cardiff. We thought it was the perfect spot. It was right in between Edgeworth, Warners Bay, and Wallsend. Literally, like, Cardiff is the middle of those 3 suburbs, so it was ideal. So I was obviously very excited. Mitch was excited. We told Ryan, Brody, and Steve. We sat down. We had a big meeting. This is the next direction. This is what we're doing. So at this point, we inspected the building twice, and we made an offer, and the offer was accepted. However, when it brought us back to the end of 2016, when we had DA issues at Curry.
So yeah, up until this point, I wouldn't say we were avidly looking for places, but we were keeping our eyes out and keeping our ears peeled. And that's when we did come across this location up in Cardiff. And like Jamie mentioned, it appeared to tick all the boxes that we needed. It was sufficient space, pricing was right,
The most
But
sorry, Mitch, the most important thing was, same as our Cessnock location, this building we looked at was already a gym. So the use of this building before we looked at it was actually a gym.
yeah, there had been another group that were operating in there, and it wasn't until we got a little bit further into the DA process with the council and having a building inspector come out and check things out that we ran into a few more problems.
Yeah, and that was, we expected some problems. We expected to potentially have to update the bathroom. We expected to install some fire exit signs and some Spitfires, which are like sprinklers in the roof. What we didn't expect, was just the building itself was very poor quality. So, Mitch, do you want to discuss that when you went out there with the building inspector?
Yeah, so we were in the final stages of securing this, and we had already spoke with our lawyers and spoke with the real estate that was managing the lease of this building. And one of the final processes that needs to get followed is meeting with a building inspector from I can't remember the agency or the company that it comes from, but effectively someone comes out who's got experience and they do a check of the building to make sure it is safe, where you are able to undertake what you're wanting to in the building. And we were fairly confident at this point that it was going to all be fine. Like we said, there had been a gym and a group in there previous to us, so we felt as though that was going to be okay. But within the first probably 2 or 3 minutes of him coming in and meeting me at the building, he started to reveal a few issues that were things that we could fix. So that wasn't an absolute red flag in the sense that it was going to just deter us altogether. But as he got further into the building and started looking at the walls and the roofing and everything, it got to the point where he quote unquote said it would cost the better part of $100,000 for us to be able to get this compliant. And after further discussion with him, and then obviously a little bit more back and forth, it just looked as though that this wasn't going to be suitable for us.
Yeah, so the issue is when these warehouses are built, they're built under industrial code. So they're originally built for industrial uses. Now, there are lots of gyms in lots of sheds in 2020, but when these sheds were built 30 years ago, this was never the intended purpose for them. So with that, once you change like the use of the building from industrial to public access, which is what we are, that's when, like, for example, the shed walls were so thin, the building inspector said that if there's a fire in the shed next door to us, those walls aren't thick enough, and that fire would run through our shed, which is what really was the issue. Which is ridiculous. That sounds so ridiculous.
Well, it sounds ridiculous, but then at one point when he was talking about that wall that we shared, he actually peeled that wall back and had a bit of a glance through and could see through the other side. So in hindsight, I mean, it obviously wasn't safe and it wasn't suitable for what we needed, even though I don't know any gyms that have fires starting in. I mean, you can only lift weights so quickly or run so quickly that it would create enough force to make a fire. But in saying that, we needed to, obey all these instructions and protocols. Yeah. So in the end, we decided against it.
Yeah, and this was a big setback for us. I was so excited. Ryan, Brody, Steve was excited. We had planned the opening date. It was like the 14th of November. We had the equipment ordered, like everything was ready to go for November the 14th. And at the 11th hour, it was just, we couldn't do it. So at this point, I guess we were kind of not stuck's the bad word, but it was very clear to us that even without the building, we wanted to get more equipment.
Yeah, because at that point we hadn't told members yet. And thankfully we didn't, because we would have been getting their hopes up and then pulling them away. But we had committed in our minds that we were wanting to still progress our members' training, and then that went to Plan B with okay, if we aren't able to be in this new building and use this new building, can we still capture that progression and that improvement in training with more equipment with the current facilities? And that's where we did invest in, a lot of new equipment. We got bikes, we got, heavier dumbbells, we got heavier kettlebells, we got battle ropes, we got a bunch of other bits and pieces, and we started using them in the current facilities we had. And that was sort of definitely not even our plan B, probably our plan C or D. But at that point, we'd already committed to getting all that equipment. So that's what we moved ahead with at that point.
Yeah, and that was the final nail in the coffin for Edgeworth. Because we couldn't buy all this equipment for all our other locations and then give none to Edgeworth because there was no room to store it. And that was also the final nail for Elmer Vale. So Elmer Vale is literally 5 minutes from like Wall's End. So all those members were happy to go down to the bigger hall with the air conditioning and all that new equipment. So I felt that was a Band-Aid. We got the new equipment. It was great. Members loved it, but it was nothing short of a Band-Aid just to tie us over.
Well, at that point, we were still keeping our eyes open for places in the Cardiff area. And the reason why Cardiff was sort of the spot we were looking at, I mean, apart from it being central geographically with Wallsend, Edgeworth and Warners Bay, it really is one of the only places in this area of Newcastle where you can find facilities that are suitable for what we have. You know, over at Wallsend, there is next to nothing.
Yeah, we looked for months.
Yeah, Warners Bay had a few here and there, but nothing that we found that was available. There was definitely more opportunity there, but a lot of them were taken. Edgeworth, there was nothing. So this sort of area in Cardiff, in the industrial side, up here was really the only option, and it worked out logically a good decision for us because it was geographically pretty much right in the middle of our 3 spots that we had been operating.
Yeah, so this is about October, November. All the gyms have more equipment. Everyone's happy. And then I guess what upset me about the Cardiff facility was it was the same as the Curry. Like, how hard is it to open the gym? And it really is difficult to find a facility that meets council requirements. And you might be thinking, well, how there's so many gyms open? And I'd say to you, those gyms have not met those requirements. And that just wasn't a risk that we were willing to take.
No, and especially, you know, once we did get that news at the building, and I think for me, when the building inspector actually peeled open the tin shed and could see next door, I think that was a bit of an indicator to say that, I feel as though we could have made it work in there, but was it going to be the best option? And the answer was no. And then the next question was it something we needed to do at that very point in time? And again, that answer was no. So we decided to sit on it and like we said, try to find something that was more suitable and was going to be something that was better for us.
So at this point, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could just find the gym? Wouldn't it be great if we could just find the gym and take it over?
Yeah, well, up until that point, like we said, we had such an issue because with this Cardiff building, this wasn't just a 1 week thing. This was months.
Yeah.
You know, from first inspection to having people go through there, to talking to our lawyers, to getting the lease drawn up. You know, there is a huge process. It was probably 2 to 3 months in the end.
And that process is also costly.
Yeah,
we still pay for those legal fees. We still pay for, it's called a lease deposit to get the lease drawn up. All those fees, like, we don't get that money back. So it was 3 months of just messing around, which ended up being a waste of time, money, and energy.
Yeah. So then we spoke and thought, if we were to find somewhere that had all this taken care of, how much easier would that be? And that was, that wasn't something that we spoke about a lot, but it was definitely a thought that we had that, if there was a gym for sale or something that was available where we could effectively just purchase it, and then we'd move in and we'd obviously be able to rebrand and put our own spin on it. But that would just make things so much easier. And it was about October or November of that year that October or November, where we caught wind of a gym that was for sale in Adamstown. And it was through someone who we knew of, didn't know very well. But we went and met with him. We checked out the facility, and it wasn't too long after that that we made the decision that that was something that was going to be really suitable for what we needed. And ultimately, we made the decision that we wanted to buy that gym as was, and then turn it into what is now known as Break-Thru Active.
Yeah, and I remember about 10 minutes after meeting Reese in that gym, I looked at you and I knew straight away. But there was, after what happened at Cardiff, I was ready.
Yeah, and the only, I mean, this was completely out of left field in the sense that it was Adamstown. We'd never, had any, ventured plans to go out there, and that was merely just because it was that location that was for sale. So we went and checked it out, and then we almost reverse engineered everything when we thought, okay, like this is a really great opportunity for us. Obviously, we don't have any presence in that area of Newcastle, so, and it was a fair ways from Wallsend, Warners Bay, and Edgeworth, so it wasn't going to be possible that our current members would be able to train there. So that was effectively going to be a standalone gym that was going to be separate to what we already had. And that really changed the course of our business, because all of a sudden we'd gone from having a few boot camps in Newcastle to having a full-fledged gym out there in Adamstown.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd driven through Adamstown before, like maybe once or twice. Like I had no idea about the area. I just knew it was close to Katara, but it was just an opportunity that we could simply not turn down, due to it was such a relief to just sign that lease and move in, and that's what we wanted at Cardiff. And I think once we started training people in Adamstown, it brought to light even more that we wanted the facility at Cardiff that much more, or especially for me.
Well, when we checked out, obviously in the gym, we could really envision the way that we wanted to train people that we had planned to, in the months prior, the location at Cardiff we looked at. That was going to be more than possible at what we saw at Adamstown. So we really saw that as an opportunity for us to be able to replicate what we had at Adamstown there over in the Cardiff area. And it was one of those moments where it was just almost like a meant to be moment. We didn't go looking for it, but it, appeared, and it was definitely something that neither of us had thought of. But given the position we were in and all the hardship we've gone through with the location at Cardiff, we felt as though it was the right move. And that, like Jamie said, really lit a fire underneath us to really be able to find somewhere in Cardiff that was going to be similar to what we had at Adamstown. Because as we started to train people there at Adamstown, we realized that, that style of training and having that type of facility with the range of equipment was something that we wanted to implement for our members out at, Wallsend and Warners Bay and Edgeworth.
It's probably the first time I've been nervous in a long time to actually train members in there, because it's one thing that we know all our members at boot camp, and they love us, we love them, but with this gym also came a range of members that stayed on with us, and we had to, I guess, prove ourselves to them.
Yeah, well, they were members from the gym previously, and a lot of them, I feel as though probably hadn't made up their mind yet if they wanted to stay on, with us, or if they were going to find somewhere else, because a number of them had been there for the last 2 or 3 years, so they had connections with the old owner. But it was a really good challenge for us to be able to for starters venture out into something new, but also to be able to diversify our coaching and training techniques, because up until that point we hadn't done much training or coaching people with barbells and different pieces of equipment. And like Jamie said, it was something that was very new to us. So for us to be able to begin that and start to get good feedback from our members that they were enjoying the sessions and enjoying the way that we were training people really gave us a lot of confidence to be able to continue.
And what we both liked about it is it was much closer to how me and you actually train. So I still train a little bit different to that, but it's for you, Mitch, it was pretty much exactly what you do.
Yeah, like a lot of obviously that comes back to the equipment and the space we have, and I felt like for me being able to help people and coach people and make recommendations from what I believe is the best way to train, that type of facility allowed me to do it. Having that range of equipment, having that space, having those styles of sessions, it really gave me, I guess, the confidence to know that that what I was helping them with was the right way to do it. And sometimes at boot camp, we've discussed this before. We can feel a little bit incongruent. Something which is predominantly cardio based, a lot of circuits, a lot of hit training, not a lot of rest, a lot of sort of lower intensity, longer duration sessions. And I mean, there is nothing wrong with that in terms of people wanting to train to get fitter and healthier, but it wasn't aligned with how I was training, and certainly wasn't aligned with how Jamie was training. So there was definitely a disconnect there. And I feel as though that with this facility and with access to more equipment, we were able to bridge that gap a lot more and be able to have people training a lot more closely to how we feel as though is best for them.
And it's just natural progression. As in, if you have an overweight person, they might start by walking, and they get more fit, they feel more confident, they might join a boot camp, they continue to improve their fitness, work on their body weight, movements, add some dumbbells and some kettlebells. And this is just the next progression to that. It's as simple as that. Like at a certain time, we both feel that like this is the next progression.
Yeah, and I think for people who do know a little more about that style of training, it was we are far from like a CrossFit style gym. CrossFit style gym. You are doing a lot of with it. There is the option to do a lot of movements that are a lot more technical. You've got barbell movements like clean and jerks and snatches, and you've got muscle ups and on the rings and handstand push ups and all these really advanced movements that is pretty much what you do, or the higher end athletes were doing CrossFit. And that's not the industry, or that's not the type of facility that we are wanting to run. So we are somewhere in the middle between, a boot camp and then that style of training, where we do have barbells, but we aren't doing anything that is going to take an hour, to be able to get you warmed up enough to be able to do that movement. And we aren't going to be having other movements that are going to scare people or deter people or have people not be able to do. We still want it to be something that everyone can mostly do, but not have that sort of element of being a little bit horrified when you're seeing someone upside down trying to do a handstand push-up.
Yeah, and what my favorite thing is, there's a lot more ways to track progression rather than fat loss. So quite often we'll have members that lose weight with us, and boot camp is number one for fat loss. It's really great. And then, but at some point, if you lose all that weight and you haven't got any more weight to lose, there's not much progression. When at Break-Thru Active and this style of training, you can make strength improvements week after week after week. Like 1 week, you might start with deadlifting 20 kilos, and your 6-month goal might be to deadlift 100 kilos. Between week 1 and that 6th month, you are making weekly progression, which is going to keep you motivated and accountable. And that's really what I think Break-Thru Active is all about. There's just more ways to progress in your health and fitness other than looking at the scales.
Yeah, at boot camp, like we talk to people, and a lot of the time people are gauging their success on how much weight they've lost. And for starters, it's very hard to determine, if you have gained any muscle in amongst that fat loss, or if it has, been predominantly fat or whatever there. People talk about improvements in fitness, but there is no way to find out how measurable that is. To be able to quantify improvement in fitness is very difficult unless you are comparing certain workouts like a 5-kilometer run, or there might be some benchmark workouts that you can complete. And that's where our fitness testing at boot camp kind of started. But that is something we wanted to implement further into our program at Break-Thru Active. And like Jamie mentioned, having barbells and being able to see yourself get stronger by loading more weight on the bar is going to be really motivating. But also for people wanting to improve their fitness, you can quantify that a lot more easily when you do have the set workouts like we do have a Break-Thru Active.
Yeah, I just want to thank all of, I guess, the Applied Fitness Centre members for taking us in. And we truly feel that we've been accepted there. And sometimes I forget that there was even a gym before us. We're just there now. We have a great relationship with the members. A week before lockdown, we had a bowls night. So we're just really happy that we could combine that next level and progression of training along with all the community stuff that we do at boot camp.
Yeah, and I think it was when we did start training. I mean, those members who had been there for a little while, but also we started to bring on new people there at Adamstown as well, and we really saw a love for the training, and we did see a lot of people, start to see results, measurable results, getting stronger, getting fitter, getting better on the assault bike, being able to run better because of the way that we program and style workouts. So at that point, it really became such an easy decision for us to want to replicate that into somewhere that our members out at Wallsend, Warners Bay, and Edgeworth can use, and obviously have it a bit more geographically convenient for them.
Yeah, and we've had some really great feedback from them. Like in January, we raised money for the New South Wales. Sounds like a lifetime ago when there was fires in Australia. We raised $6,000 for New South Wales Rural Fire Service, and these Adamstown members, they hadn't been involved with something like this before, and this was our 50th fundraiser. So it was great that they appreciated what we've been doing from day one.
Yeah, and like Jamie said before, obviously it is a different style of training, and we're approaching sessions a bit differently. But one thing that stays constant, and one thing that will always remain constant, is the community feel that we have within our sessions, the community that we aim to build amongst our members, and all the social events and fundraisers and parties and things that we do have in conjunction with the program, because we feel as though the fitness side of things and the sessions itself are only, a compartment or only a small part of what the business is about. And we feel as though over the years where we've been able to really find some success is by doing a lot of the community-based events, social events, seeing each other outside of sessions, and really just having a good time in and amongst doing some exercise and training as well.
Yeah, and I think we've had one of our members, Kelly. She was with Reese, the old owner at Applied Fitness Centre, for years and years and years and years and years. She sent us both a message the other night in regards to just thanking us for taking over her gym, which made us feel really good, because it was really, we wanted those original members to get the best possible service, because they were receiving good service before.
Yeah, we had some big shoes to fill, for sure. So that was something that, we really found to be, a good opportunity for us to be able to prove ourselves there early on, and be able to not only run good sessions, but also be able to provide a good environment and, show our personalities a little more, so the members there could connect with us and be able to enjoy themselves there like they used to.
Yeah, and the more we got to know them, the more they were really unsure of both of us at the start. And what did Alex say about her straps? It's the best thing I've heard all year.
Oh, just that she was effectively saying that she wasn't going to stay.
Yeah,
so
she took her straps home the day of the announcement.
Yeah, that was it. But she's still with us, so we must have done something right.
Yeah. So January kicked off. We brought on a lot of new members at Adamstown, which we were thrilled about. And we had a chat at that time. It was our goal to open a facility in Cardiff in 2020. Every single week that passed, it became harder and harder. For me, anyway.
Yeah, we were really looking at that point, like actively looking, keeping our eyes on, different websites that had, leasing locations, and also just keeping our ears open through other people who may have, known things that we couldn't find online. And that was a hard process. We weren't really able to find anything suitable. So we definitely looked, we probably checked out half dozen places, I'd say. And again, like we spoke about in previous times, could have we made it work at these places? Possibly. But, if this is something that we are wanting to be in for, the long haul, which we are, then we wanted something that was going to be really suitable and somewhere where we really loved, and something that we wouldn't be hesitant about moving into due to perhaps the space or the quality of the building or where it was located or anything like that.
Yeah, and I looked at every single building in Cardiff for about 3 months, called every real estate, checked all the council websites. I think we expected more than 6, mate. I think we went through like 20.
Yeah.
We were looking at 4 buildings a day at sometimes. And thankfully, it came down to 2 choices. Both were on Penderby Road. And we looked at this building, which Mitch is sitting in right now, and it is a brand newly constructed concrete building. We are the first people to lease that building. So it is brand new. And the one down the road was not quite as nice.
No, it was quite the polar opposite. And I mean, like anything, it came down to price as well. And the other one was a lot less, which was obviously, you know, appealing considering we were taking a big jump and moving somewhere new. But, you know, when we really sat down and looked at the differences, and although this one is, you know, more expensive, we feel as though it is the place that we should be. And we are very glad that we ended up deciding with this building. It just so happened that you guys haven't really been able to experience it yet, but you know, like Jamie mentioned, it is brand new. It is the perfect size, the perfect space. Parking's not an issue, so it really ticked all those boxes. And once we got over that little hurdle that was a little more expensive, we jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, and this is no word of a lie. I've been into a lot of functional gyms, and that Cardiff facility is the nicest one I've ever been to. Because most functional gyms, they are in a shed, an old dirty shed, and this building is closer to a showroom. So once we reopen, we cannot wait for you guys to see it. You've seen it on YouTube, you've seen it through photos, but once you walk through there, once you do a session, I know we've made the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got it set up. Well, once we get all of our equipment back, it's going to be set up where we can start to run sessions more closely to like we do at Adamstown, and like we mentioned before, more closely to how we train, which is how we feel as though is the best way for our members to train. So, like we mentioned before, there was definitely an incongruence in that, where we were training one way, our members were training another way. We can really align those a lot more closely now, and we have the facility to be able to do it, which is really exciting.
So the last 5 parts, guys, it's been a long ride. From a booth park in Kurri in July 27, 2015, with about 10 people, to opening at Kurri, successful. Kurri, successful. Cessnock, didn't work out. Wallsend, Edgeworth, Warners Bay, Adamstown, and now Cardiff. It hasn't been an easy road or a smooth road, but where we are now, we are so grateful and just very, very excited to just kick off on stage to restrictions reduced. Because from Adamstown opening to us opening at Cardiff, the last 6 months has been building to this point. And then March 22, the night before it was all supposed to start, it was taken away.
Yeah, and I mean, we've maintained, or at least I have, you know, everyone's been affected by this one way or another, and I think we were just among the first people to be affected, because it was, you know, that first announcement that gyms had to close, and it just so happened that was also the same day we were planning on opening. But you know, this is by no means a pity party. You know, we understand that, you know, everyone has been affected in different ways, but it is just really an exciting time for us, and the most recent announcement from the government, having a plan in place where we will be able to reopen, given that there will be some restrictions, which we're not 100% certain on, but just giving the clearance that we can open our doors, we can have people come in and train in group sessions. You know, obviously we are going to be looking at the social distancing aspect and health and safety, and making sure we are, you know, abiding with all of that and providing, you know, the most safe and most healthy environment we can. But just the fact that we are able to have you guys in and share with you the facility that it feels like we've been, you know, in here forever, but in reality, it has only been a few months. So we are just really excited, you know, to get to stage 2, to be able to have our doors open and to be able to start training you guys in here after a few months of hiatus.
Yeah, and all you members helped us get to this stage. Our Curry members helped us grow to Cessnock. Wallsend, we took a shot in the dark, and then our Wallsend members helped us expand to Edgeworth and Warners Bay. Adamstown fell into our lap. Sometimes there's luck. And then combined, you guys have helped us get Cardiff. So overall, I think we're both very, very happy with the last 5 years. But what was the number one thing you learned, Mitch, over 5 years? If you give 2015 Mitchell Doan some advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a very tough question. Well, I think part of 5 years ago was I would have had, if someone said that we'd be in the position now where we'd have effectively 2 gyms and some boot camps, and have hundreds of members and having trained thousands of people over the years, I wouldn't have believed it, because at that point it was only a part-time show. But I think the biggest lesson, I guess, I've learned and we've learned is just that persistence really does pay off, because this has been a drum that we've been beating in different ways, but still beating the same drum for 5 years, training people, getting up early, running sessions, running social events, posting on Facebook. And I think being able to do that consistently for 5 years has led us to this point. And if we had have taken any shortcuts or skipped any of those steps, in that process, there's a good chance that we wouldn't be where we're at now. So I think just the persistence of getting through some of those more challenging times and just consistently doing all those things that we have repeatedly done has led us to this point. So a lot of hard work, and it sounds a bit cheesy, but hard work pays off, and I think we can both agree that it has for us.
Yeah, and I think I'm exactly the same. That was going to be my answer. I'll change it slightly. An idea is just an idea. Like, without the execution, without the persistence, without following through day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, that idea is pointless. It is the exact same when you create a goal with your fitness. Like, it can be the greatest goal in the world, but unless you take that first step, that next day, and then day 2, and so on and so forth, it will never work. So, yeah.
I think, the people and, the world and everything, it's not short on ideas. It's short on execution. So I think from the very first moment when we decided we wanted to run group fitness, that was our idea, which I'm sure has been the idea of lots of different people and lots of different trainers. It's probably crossed the mind of every single trainer who's ever become a trainer. But for us to be able to execute that plan, to start at Curry and then move up to a hall and then move into the shed and move into a building, and then obviously everything that's happened the last few years, it really has just been executing that plan. And that comes back all the way down to daily execution. Like I mentioned before, running sessions, running good sessions, posting on Facebook, providing a good place for people to train. Those things are done daily. And if we had have skipped any of those along the way, then, the business and life as we know it now wouldn't be as it is.
Okay, so I think we've done a pretty good job of telling our story for anyone that wanted to hear it. But moving forward on the podcast, we'll have discussions amongst Mitch and I in regards to health and fitness. Anything we think that's valuable, we'll share. But we also want to start interviewing more people. So we'll be interviewing members, our trainers, and other health and fitness professionals.
Yeah, and we'll have topics for each episode or each podcast where, we are discussing something in more detail, so a little more informative. We will have ones that are a little more lighthearted, and then ones that are a bit more interactive with guests on the shows. So if you do have any specific ideas, then feel free to share them with us, and we'll be happy to explore them when we start to create more podcasts.
All right, mate, that's 45 minutes. We've been talking for long enough.
Okay.
All right, guys, thank you for listening. Have a lovely, lovely day. This is episode 7, and we'll be back with another one this week. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, guys. We'll tune in for the next one. And until then, have yourselves a great day.